Franz Kafka's impact on literature and culture is enormous. His stories and his novels have gone on to influence many, many different types of artists and thinkers. But I think that people are just not aware of the fullness of Kafka's life and personality. So this exhibition includes many, many personal documents, including his diaries. And through these intensely sort of intimate materials, we get a real sense of who he was. Franz Kafka is an exhibition that tells the story of Franz Kafka's life and work through unique documents, including literary manuscripts, letters, family photographs, postcards, and early editions of his work. There's a myth of Kafka as the sort of quintessentially lonely, alienated bachelor, obsessed with literature and unable to function in the world. The exhibition shows that the picture was much more complex. He was successful at his job, he was very funny, he had warm family relationships, and he was a much more well-rounded individual than has perhaps been portrayed. The exhibition is in two sections. The first section gives you the context for his life and early works, and the second section focuses on his travels. We have drawn from the Bodleian Library's extraordinary Kafka holdings to tell stories about different aspects of his life, including his family, his early works, and his major literary works, including The Castle, The Metamorphosis, The Judgment, and then his influence after his life. Kafka is best known for the story The Metamorphosis. He wrote the short story in November 1912. It's a story that feels as if it has always been written, so it's very exciting to see the manuscript in the exhibition. This is the manuscript of The Metamorphosis, Kafka's most famous story, and as you can see, it's just a small little battered notebook. It's amazing to see the story sort of come to be on the page with very few changes. Gregor Samsa is right there in the first line. He's only crossing out a couple of things, and it's a kind of monument of world literature, and it's also this very humble object. Here's the great thing about this exhibition. Despite Kafka's immense influence on literature and all forms of thought and art, there have been very, very few exhibitions of his manuscripts. This manuscript has never been on view in New York and has only rarely been seen, so this is a unique opportunity. There are two women in Kafka's life that the exhibition focuses on particularly. Lla Kafka, who was his younger sister. She was the sister to whom he was closest in the family. One of the interesting things about Ottla was that she wanted to become a farmer, which was an unusual ambition for a middle-class young woman at that time. So there are many, many postcards from Kafka to Ottla in the exhibition, and also a letter in which he advises her about agricultural programs that she's looking into. The other woman featured in the exhibition who was important is Melena Yensa. Yensa was Kafka's first translator, and they also had a brief but very important romantic relationship. Yensa was an extremely interesting woman. Kafka called her a living fire, and she was also not only a translator of Kafka's work, but also a promoter of the work. And the exhibition also includes an early letter from Kafka to Melena Yensa about her translation of The Stoker. I think that there's often a desire to save Kafka in some ways from himself. So there are numerous treatments of Kafka that give him an alternate ending. So this is a galley page of Philip Roth's essay, I Always Wanted You to Admire My Fasting, or Looking at Kafka. The essay, it is essentially a two-part essay. In the first part, Roth is thinking about where Kafka was in the last year of his life. In the second part of the essay, he saves Kafka. He gives Kafka this other ending where Kafka survives and moves to Newark and becomes a Hebrew teacher and teaches little Philip Roth. But it's exciting to see Roth kind of working through the details of this essay before it goes to print. Kafka never made things easy for himself. He was constantly taking one position and then reversing it. He's writing about the whole range of human activity. So I can see why these writers return to him and return to him, return to him. Franz Kafka's works continue to be surprising. His works continue to be powerful. and each new generation sort of discovers him. There's a very kind of intimate relationship to Kafka. So it's very exciting to see a side of him that hasn't been talked about at great length. The Morgan is famous for its exhibitions of literary manuscripts, and this exhibition really focuses on seeing the writer at work.